Hello, I know that there are several of you gone today, and today's a really important day for content, so I decided to record this video to maybe help you. Today we're going to talk about why nations trade based on absolute and comparative advantage. So yesterday we got into a little bit about just why they trade, and we saw that there is a win-win situation. That's we only trade then when it's voluntary, if both parties can benefit. And we also talked a little bit about why it makes sense to specialize. So today we're going to get into the economic model to be able to show you absolute and comparative advantage. So first, just to review too, we ended the day by looking at the tags in our t-shirts to see where our t-shirts were made, and we came up with 15 different countries. That exercise is done to show you that international trade is represented in your daily life by the goods that you purchase, and those goods are a lot cheaper because of international trade. So sometimes I have kids look at this map to see where all of those countries are that we named yesterday. So I'll let you do that on your own if you'd like to. Okay, remember yesterday too, we also talked about the production possibilities curve that shows us the alternatives that a country or company may have in producing two goods. So this particular graph here shows us the guns or butter dilemma. A key concept to the production possibilities curve is remembering and understanding opportunity cost, and it's the value of what we give up. We're going to revisit that concept with absolute and comparative advantage. Okay, first up is absolute advantage. So suppose a nation has just an abundance of resources, they have a natural rich environment, the latest technology, a great workforce. It might appear or seem that that nation should be self-sufficient. They should make everything themselves. But why then do they engage in foreign trade like the United States? Why does it still benefit them? These calculations of absolute and comparative advantage are going to show us why it makes sense to still engage in international trade. So first up is absolute advantage. An absolute advantage says when you look at the data of two countries or companies, it's who's the best at producing it. So that determining the best, you have to see if your model is showing you input or outputs. So it's the ability to produce a good with fewer inputs, so it doesn't take as much to put it in. In that particular case, the models that we're going to look at have to deal a lot with time, is how many hours does it take to produce something. So if I'm faster at it, I have the absolute advantage. Or we can also look at models that have output, so who can produce more. So I'm going to give you an hour to produce something, who can produce more of it. Whoever produces the most, you have absolute advantage. So the particular chart that we have on the screen right now is actually input. So what it's saying, what's remaining constant is in the first column is 1 dozen donuts. So it's looking at the kingdom of happy chains and sappy chains and saying, all right, how much time does it take you to produce 1 dozen donuts? This is an input good. And so happy chains can do it faster. So they have the absolute advantage in donuts. When we look at cupcakes, we're looking at how many hours does it take you to produce 1 dozen cupcakes, and it looks like Sappy Chains has the absolute advantage in cupcakes because they can do it faster. So again, this is an input table, and so that's why we're looking for the lowest number because it's who can do it the best. Now, in this particular case, we know right off the bat that, okay, it's going to make sense because Happy Chains is better at producing donuts. You produce donuts. Happy Chains is better at doing cupcakes, so you do cupcakes. Specialize in those and trade. But what is more common is when one particular country or company is the best at both products, then that's when it appears like, oh gosh, they should be self-sufficient and everybody should make their own goods. And no, that's not the case. And that's where we do our calculations with comparative advantage. So that's coming up soon. But remember again, absolute advantage is who's the best at it. I cannot show you through this video our next slide, which is a video, but I really do want you to watch that. It's on slide 17 because I think it's just good to hear another person explain this concept to you. So again, to review, input has to do with time or other resources that go into making something, and we're looking for the least number or the smallest number to see who has absolute advantage. Whereas with output, It has to do with the quantity or the number of products that's made. So we're looking at who has the most to determine absolute advantage. All right, here's just another example for you to take a look at. So first, determining if it's an input graph or if it's an output graph. So when we look at number of donuts produced in 1 hour and number of cupcakes produced in 1 hour, this is, hopefully you said, an output graph because we're looking at the number produced. So who has absolute advantage? Choo-choo trains produce 24 while notorious chains produce 12. So our choo-choo trains produce more. They have the absolute advantage in donuts. Who has absolute advantage in cupcakes? This one looks like it's notorious chains because they produced more in cupcakes. All right, seems simple enough, right? Who has absolute advantage? Whoever's the best at it. I'm going to stop the video there. I'm not sure yet if we're going to get to this exit slip, so make sure you check out our agenda to see if you have to do an exit slip. I'm sure you'll have to do one today, but I don't know if it's this one or not. So I'm going to stop the video here, and I'll probably have another one on comparative advantage. So make sure you watch both.